Hello, friends. I hope and pray that God is keeping you safe away from the coronavirus or COVID-19. Now, we're going to be continuing right now with our research. Remember that the last, postings I made were all about chapter 1. Remember, we discussed something about how to come up with a title. Yes, we also discussed about the statement of the problem, the background of the study, the objectives of the study, both general and specific objectives of the study, wherein we said they are the ones going to help us to generate the research questions as well. We talked about the justification of the study, or maybe the importance of it. Now, we also talked about the conceptual framework, which is a diagrammatic narrative of what is going to be done. And then, remember, we also talked about the scope of the study that included geographical scope, time scope, and also subject scope. We also have, I think, finished all what it takes to generate chapter 1. Now, I'm going to take you through how to generate chapter 2, and that is review of the literature, or what we call literature review. Now, so many scholars, so many students do not think this is actually one of the simplest. So as I say, I'm going to make it as simple as possible. How do we generate literature review? Again, we're going to use the conceptual framework developed, which gave us the objectives of the study. And so therefore, the literature review is going to be based on the objectives of the study. And the example we had, remember, had employee performance as the dependent variable. We also had employee motivation as one of the independent variables, and employee engagement. So literature review is going to be around those variables. The question is very, very important, is that what have other scholars written about these variables? You must look for what other scholars have written about these variables and what gaps they had while writing about the same. Do not look around for something new and something different, because this is research. That means you are getting into something that has been done before to find out what the gap is, and so that you can write something as well as you relate it with the gap that they had in their writings. So therefore, where do we get this literature review? Some scholars, some students ask, for goodness sake, how can I write all those pages for the literature review? You're not the one supposed to write them. Let me tell you. Check what scholars have written about employee motivation. Check what scholars have written about employee engagement. And check what scholars have written about employee performance. This is what is going to form your literature review. And like I said, you are going to name your sections and subsections depending on those variables. Now, I usually advise, as I always do, that students should go into the search engines that are scholarly, that have scholarly materials, like EBSCO, like EBSCOLAR. You see, like Emerald. I like Emerald journals so much. So you need to have access to the Emerald journals. Emerald journals, they are peer-reviewed and they have scholarly materials where you can choose, you read all the articles and you find out the articles that write about those specific variables that you're talking about. There are so many, tens of thousands of articles that have written about employee engagement, that have written about employee motivation, that have written about employee performance. So look for them. And what you're going to do, pick out what you feel is relevant to your study, cut, copy, adjust and paste. You see, you cut, copy, adjust and paste. So it's about acknowledging the source of the material you are putting in your literature review. And so therefore, next time I shall be talking about How do you acknowledge that this is where you have picked the information? So, right now, friends, it's as easy as that. I want to ask you humbly to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go ahead and encourage your other friends from many other universities in and outside Uganda to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the teachings that I'm giving, make comments, give me feedback, and we shall succeed. I wish you all the best. Next time we meet, we shall talk about how we can cite the sources of information that we are putting in our literature review. God bless.